There's certain laws of the universe that tend to come true. Trust in the process and just keep pushing. And if you keep pushing and doing good things will happen to you. I've worked at Barts almost 20 years. I've ran numerous jobs as a foreman, as a project manager, and now I'm the president of the office location in Florida. So I grew up between Liberty and Kearney. There's this trailer park right there on 69 Highway. My mom and dad had 6 kids. They all started out in a 2-bedroom trailer. When I was probably in the 2nd grade, we ended up getting a 3-bedroom trailer. And we lived there from the day I was born till I ended up moving out. I grew up around some pretty rough characters. You know, probably not some of the best influences that I should have had or could have had. A lot of the kids I grew up around, you know, they are either in jail, have drug addiction problems, drinking problems, whatever problems you can think of, they have it. There was a point in time where this kid that I grew up around, he stole a gun from his dad's house. His dad lived in Lee Summit, and he brings it to the trailer park. And we're like, he's like, hey, I got this gun, check it out. And I'm like 2nd or 3rd grade. And I'm like, oh, cool, you know, whatever. I was like, you wanna go shoot it? Yeah, let's go shoot it. So there's some woods down there by the trailer park, and we go down walking in the woods and we start shooting off this pistol. So these older kids in the neighborhood, these little girls, they came walking by, we're like, check out this gun, you know? Well, what do you think they did? They went and told their parents, and of course the parents called the police. The police show up. Well, before the police show up, these older kids, maybe 18, I don't know how old they were, just give us the gun, we'll take care of it, you know? And they said, whatever the cops say, don't tell them that you ever saw the gun or you had a gun. And if they keep asking you, just say it. So I did. I lied to the cops over and over. They were asking me over and over and over. So I never admitted to it ever, but I think that was one of the moments too where I was like, oh my gosh, this is gonna be bad for me. And then around that same time frame, that's when I say I met the Walkers. My parents taking us to church every Sunday, introduced us to good gospel principles, right?
Thank you for this opportunity that we have together to learn from each other and to grow as a company and as a family.
They stuck with all of us. And around the time that I was maybe in the 3rd grade, 4th grade, I met Bart and his family. They'd moved to Holt, and we were actually going to church in Liberty at the Stake Center there, and got to becoming friends with Jamie, Bart's oldest son. He's my age, and so he and I started becoming friends and hanging out. So I went from hanging out with that kid and a few others in my neighborhood to being able to at least have an outlet. You know, Bart's, ever since I've known him, he's had Bart's Electric for 30, however many years. So I started recognizing, like, okay, there's different lifestyles out there, and I don't like what I see here. So after I graduated high school, I knew I needed to get into a trade. And I'd known Bart for a long time, but I never really thought I should go get a job with him. I was working at the city of Liberty, painting fire hydrants, believe it or not. It was a summer job. So I was painting every fire hydrant in town. We drove up every single street in town and painted every fire hydrant in that town. And this old man came and was talking to me. He's like, what are you gonna do when you're done painting these things? I said, I don't know. I thought about applying with the city and getting a job with the city. He said, no, you're not. He said, I won't allow that. And I was like, what do you mean? I gotta get a job. He said, you go get your butt in a trade. And I was like, okay. And so I wanted to be a lineman. So one day, just out of the blue, Bart called me. He's like, hey, what are you doing? How you been? You know, just checking on me. And he did that periodically throughout, you know, my being a teenager and all that stuff. He would just call me sometimes. And I said, I think I might be a lineman. He's like, you don't want to be a lineman. Why don't you just come work for me? I said, okay. I started out working in the shop that we have on Stewart Road. All those shelves and all that stuff in there. My very first job that I ever did at Bart's was I painted all those shelves because we just moved into that shop. And then shortly thereafter, I went out on a couple job sites. And then one Sunday, I get a phone call from Jason Ham, and he says, hey, I need you to go to Omaha, Nebraska in the morning. And I was like, okay. I was like, for how long? He's like, maybe just a week. Did not want to go at all because, you know, I'm 18. My friends are all at home. So I went, and then I just stayed out there. I was supposed to come home that week, and then I came home, and he's like, all right, see you Monday. And I'm like, oh, I'm coming back? Well, yeah. And I went week over week over week. I went back till the job was finished, and then came home, worked for a little bit, and I went to Colorado, and I worked on a job. Didn't really want to go there either. And then got done there and went to a job in Texas. Didn't really want to go there either. And so I went, and then when that job was over, I stood up to Brian. I called Brian Walker, and I said, I'm done traveling. I'm not traveling no more. He just said, okay. You know, I thought, I'd done it. Nobody else is traveling. I'm the only one doing this stuff. So I came home, and I worked at home for maybe 3 or 4 months, and they called and said, hey, we need you to go to Colorado again. And I said, okay. So off to Colorado I went. I think I ended up in Oklahoma for a little bit, and then I ended up in California. And I was in California for probably a year. When I first started traveling, I didn't do it as much as maybe people think I'm driven, this is a driven individual. I wasn't doing it because I was like, I'm gonna succeed no matter what. I always worked hard because I knew that was the right thing to do. I went because, well, okay, when they gave me the opportunity to run my own jobs, okay, that's when I was like, okay, no, I'm gonna go do this, because when I was an apprentice, the first year or two, I was like, no, this sucks. Then afterwards, I actually started to like it and I started to enjoy it. And that's when I actually started recognizing it could actually get me places. I'm actually starting to gain some ground here of some of my peers around me. I ended up in Massachusetts, and that's where I actually met my wife. We immediately hit it off. And that was like the first LDS girl I'd ever dated. And we ended up, you know, very quickly getting engaged, which was crazy. And all my friends were like, what is wrong with you? I'm like, I don't know. We got married in Salt Lake City Temple. And then other opportunities just kept coming up. We ended up in New York doing a hospital. And while we were in New York, I was actually presented a job offer from the facilities manager at the hospital. And it was for a substantial amount of money, more than what I was making at Barts at the time. And around that same time frame, Brett called me and was like, hey, you want to go to Florida? And I was like, no, not really, but yeah, I'll go. All the while, I'd actually been talking with these people, and they gave me a job offer and all kinds of stuff. And they were like, okay, we'll call you back. It'll probably take a month or two before we get back with you. So I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to stop pursuing Bart's whatever. They finally called and they're like, hey, we're ready for you to start in 2 weeks. And I was like, oh crap, I got to make a decision here. And I ended up calling Bart. And I was like, hey, Bart, these people approached me, they got this opportunity. And I ended up telling him about the opportunity. And he said, what are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know, but I don't think I'm going to take the job. He's like, well, I never even gave you an offer to increase your salary or anything. I said, yeah, I know. I just feel like after I'm talking with you, I don't want to quit you. And he's like, okay. And I said, I feel like if I quit, that's it for me. Like my growth, professional growth is done. He said, okay, well, when you get down to Florida, I'll come see you. I said, okay. The job got delayed. It ended up getting delayed a month or two. And I ended up going to Florida. And shortly thereafter, Bart came down and he said, hey, I've got this idea. What do you think about owning a base? And I was like, yeah, that sounds like a good idea. We started hiring people. We started getting really good guys to come to work with us, which allowed us to go bid more work and take on more projects and stuff like that. It slowly has progressed to bigger and bigger and bigger. We've got 160 employees down there now. This year, we're gonna do anywhere from $80 to $100 million this year alone. We have super big goals for the future. I've always been scared every time I've taken a step, and I'm starting not to be scared anymore. I was scared the first time I went to Omaha. I was scared when I went to Colorado for the first time. I was scared the very first time I got in my truck by myself at 20. I was 20 years old driving to Tucson by myself. I was always a little nervous, but I always knew I had people backing me too. And that's how I'm trying to do it with the people in Florida. And I know that Bart and Bart's Electric is backing me, which gives me the confidence to back those other people.
Hello everyone, I'm Caleb Preston. I've been with Barts for a little over 5 years, and what's funny is I actually left Barts twice, and the reason I came back was, for the third time is that guy right there, boss.
With every risk, there's also an opportunity. And with every choice, there's an opportunity. And so if it makes sense, just go do it.